Namaste. As many of you know, I was in Nepal from July 21st through 28th, attending the International Institute on Peace Education. Quite naturally, lots of people have asked, "How was your trip?" It's hard to put it into words, actually, but that's sort of what I usually do at this point in the service, so I will try. Nepal was beautiful. I'm just curious if there are others in the room who have been to Nepal. I knew there have been at least a couple, yeah. And the experience was amazing. The small resort where our gathering was held was perched in the mountains overlooking the Kathmandu Valley, with stunning views of the surrounding peaks and billowing clouds and shining sun intermixed with rain and the lush greenery. A community of participants at this institute was formed with intention and care and authenticity and love, and it was intelligent and it was meaningful. It was a resounding affirmation that yes, you can put mind and heart and soul into a room together, and beautiful ideas and actions and relationships develop. The food was good, really good. But the thing that hangs with me the most right now is the daily, regular, normal use of that word, namaste. The word is from Sanskrit, and it literally means bow to you. Indian and Nepali culture use it very regularly as a greeting, even sometimes as a farewell, as a hello. From a more spiritual perspective, the concept is often enhanced, and the way that I learned about this idea of namaste was that it is an act of recognition that the divine light in me recognizes and bows to the divine light in you. While the understanding of the divine as present within people is certainly different in Hinduism than it is in Christianity, I find this act, this gentle nod and clasp of hands and verbal recognition of the existence and the humanity of the other to be compelling, to be a compelling reminder that all persons are created in God's image. Each person has unique and special characteristics that make them who they are, and God is able to work in and through each one that I meet. The thing about saying namaste in Nepal is that it is said to everyone. It's not just the lower bowing and greeting the higher. I greeted and was greeted with namaste by my colleagues, other peace builders who were attending the conference, but also strangers walking by on the street, employees at the hotels where I stayed and the restaurants where I ate, taxi drivers, and even one morning when I was walking up the steep road towards the village, a very young child, probably 2 years old, was standing outside with her mother, waiting for an older sibling's school bus. And we bowed to each other and said namaste. This repetitive act reminds me that the message of love, the attitude of attention, eye contact, and greetings of goodwill are not determined by wealth, by gender, by class, by job, by age. And this was true for Jesus, too. We read in the 2nd chapter of John that he was at a wedding, which in his time and culture was a multi-day affair, a feast, a long celebration. We aren't sure who exactly was getting married, since that's actually not really the important part of this story, but Jesus could have been invited because he was a family member or a community member or an acquaintance, or it's even possible that he was invited because he was beginning to gain a bit of status as a teacher, a philosophical and religious leader. After the wedding was well underway, this is when the story really gets started. We are given scant detail, but Jesus' mother unequivocally points out that the wine is gone. John reports that she says something cryptic like, "They don't have any wine." That was a joke. It's not really cryptic at all. I don't like to be sarcastic when I preach, sorry. Jesus responds that he's not really sure what her point is. It has nothing to do with him. And he makes an offhand comment that his time has not yet come. Mom doesn't even reply to him, but instead looks to the servants standing nearby who are, perhaps curiously, perhaps uncomfortably, witnessing this exchange. And she tells them to do whatever Jesus tells them to do. Maybe it's because I'm the mother of 4 teenagers and young adults, but I really enjoy this conversation between Jesus and his mother. Maybe it's the suggestion of humor or possibly a little snark that draws me in. Humor and snark that I enjoy engaging in with my adult and almost adult children. I can almost hear Jesus sighing and rolling his eyes, and I can almost see the corner of his mother's mouth twitching and pulling up into the beginning of a smile as she insinuates without pause that it is indeed time for Jesus to show his stuff. The words that are exchanged between mother and son are important, and we could spend a great deal of time digging into what Jesus means when he said his time has not yet come, the symbolism of the water and the wine and the wedding, the role of the head waiter, and the shocking discovery that this is not just wine, but the best wine. We can wonder together why Jesus and his mother took this specific opportunity to engage in his first of a series of miracles, or as John calls them, signs. We can debate the primary theological theme. Is it about hospitality? Is it about abundance? Is it about faithfulness? Probably yes, yes, and yes. In our world of plot-driven page-turners and binge-streamed drama and comedies, we forget that Scripture has a fullness, a wholeness, a holiness, a non-linearness that our usual stories do not. Such is the complexity of written words about the living Word, Jesus. But as we look at the Scripture this week, in the midst of this series called Named and Unnamed, it is especially interesting to note that nowhere in the Gospel of John is the mother of Jesus named. We know from the Gospel accounts of Mark and Matthew and Luke that her name is Mary, and it is likely that the author of this Gospel knew that too. Most scholars agree that John was the latest Gospel to be written. So Mark and Matthew and Luke were probably circulating in these early Christian communities, and the stories and characters would have been familiar, including the story of Jesus' miraculous birth and Mary as his mother. But in the Gospel of John, her name isn't used. I will admit that the part of me that is a little bit of a feminist envisioned this named and unnamed series as, at least in part, giving due attention to the women in the Scripture and their stories, women who are embedded in what sometimes feels like a patriarchal text that arose from a patriarchal society. So there's a part of me that feels somehow like this unnamed reality of many women in the Bible, and Mary in this gospel is a bit of a cut. It's a little demeaning that many women in the Bible were not named because they are viewed as lesser than, unrecognized, minimized, devoid of power, that their story is hidden or limited or lost because they were not known by name. And in many cases, I think that is the case. So one of the goals of this series has been to elevate those stories and bring to light their significance and value. But so often, the ways that we are defined and that we define ourselves are through our relationships, for good or for ill. I am the mother of Hannah and Isaac and Dakota and Mariah. I am the wife of Mark. I am one of your pastors. For about 26 students this fall semester, I will be their instructor. For my doctoral faculty, I am their student. I am a friend, a colleague, a partner. And those are not worthless names. They are rich and deep and multifaceted. Mary's identity as mother of Jesus in this scripture, in the Gospel of John, puts the critical focus on her relationship to Jesus, her role as mother. This mother has had a front row seat to Jesus' birth, his childhood, his learning, his becoming. She has intimate and complicated knowledge about who he is and who he will be, as mothers often do about their children. And now, she is a witness to his first sign, his first act of his ministry. In fact, she not only has a front row seat, she is on the stage with him. She is the conduit through which that sign, that ministry is born. It's a different type of a nativity story, isn't it? In this Gospel of John, we do not read that Mary holds Jesus in her womb through supernatural powers. There are no angels here, no dreams, no Joseph. There is no shepherd, no reference to Bethlehem, no wrapping him in cloth, no manger, no inn. But we see that the mother of Jesus is nudging him, pushing him even, into a whole new realm. And she is not only present at, but the catalyst for the beginning of the revelation of Jesus' divinity to the world. For his time has now come, and she knows it, even when he does not. It is in the gritty ordinariness of life that Jesus is born as an infant in the Gospels of Matthew and Luke. And it is in the grittiness, ordinariness of life, the background scenery with servers and a very human problem of winelessness, that this first sign of Jesus' divinity arises. This is a nod to the rituals and routines of human relationships, not because it is the human natural birth of an infant from a mother's body, but much later in life, a conversation between mother and adult son, a wedding feast filled with food and wine, an unexpected problem of beverage shortage, which certainly would have normally been an issue left to the servants to handle. But here comes Jesus, and, importantly, his mother, intervening in the predictable pattern of daily life to demonstrate that something new is on the horizon, something sacred is being born. At the end of the Gospel of John, the mother of Jesus is present again. This is the only other time she is identified in this book, in chapter 19, at the foot of the cross. She doesn't speak this time, or at least here in the Gospel of John, there are no words attributed to her. But Jesus speaks, almost the last words of his human life. This final exchange takes place immediately before the story goes back to wine, a sour wine this time, on a sponge, and not at a wedding party, but at a crucifixion as Jesus hangs on the cross, not with servants, but with soldiers. Jesus' words to his mother make it clear that he blesses her and his dearest friend, the beloved disciple, to be family to each other now, mother and son. He sees the spark of love and spirit within them and joins them in faithfulness and care that they gave, the same faithfulness and care that they gave to Jesus, that they will now give to one another. Namaste. How might we see ourselves in the reflection of the mother of Jesus, her presence, her actions? In what relationships are we engaged that provide opportunity to give a nod and a bow to the divine spark in the other, to call out the specialness, the Jesus-like qualities of others in ways that allow Jesus' love and light to burst into this world? How might we recognize our role as mother or father, uncle or aunt, grandparent or neighbor, friend or colleague to others who need to be affirmed in their wholeness and encouraged to let their light shine? I suggest that John's account is a nativity of sorts. It describes the birth of Jesus, just not Jesus as a baby. This is Jesus coming into the world in a new way. And his mother is right there, birthing him into this new reality, this new existence. Not only does she bring to life Jesus' first sign of his divine nature, but she is also present at the close of his earthly life, partnered with the beloved disciple to form a new family of faith, a new community of love, a new model of how to be in this world, a model of faithfulness and abundance, abiding love and mutual care, a beautiful vision for humanity to continue to birth over and over and over again. May it be so.